The stars stretched endlessly across the vast, unyielding void of space, their cold light twinkling faintly against the backdrop of darkness. To anyone else, it might have been a beautiful sight, but Commander Dren Solis had long learned to see the coldness in space's vastness. From the observation deck of the Sentinel Vanguard, the dark expanse seemed unyielding, indifferent to their mission. To Dren, it was a place where the cosmos itself seemed to hold its breath. He stood alone, his silver uniform perfectly pressed, a sharp contrast to the cold sterility of the room. His eyes locked onto the nebula ahead, the swirling blues and purples, mesmerizing and ominous in their beauty, barely distracted him from the deeper unease in his gut. To most, the nebula was a wonder. To Dren, it was a warning. Behind him, the low hum of the ship's activity filled the air, punctuated by the steady, reassuring clicks of officers moving about the bridge, performing their duties with the precision born of years of training. The Vanguard was one of the fleet's most advanced ships, technologically superior, built for endurance. But even it couldn't shield them from the uncertainty of what was to come. He knew that beyond the observation window, something darker was waiting. The silence of space only amplified the tension that hung in the air. It was there, unspoken, threading through the crew like a shadow. Lieutenant Kira Lennox stepped up beside him, her boots clicking sharply against the polished floor. She was young, but sharp. Her focus had earned her a place among the Vanguard's elite. Dren respected her, but she had yet to prove herself in a real combat situation. He suspected that moment was coming soon. "Commander," Kira said, her voice tight with urgency, "we've intercepted another distress signal from the outer colonies. It's just like the previous ones. The attack pattern's identical." Dren's expression hardened. He'd feared this. Another attack. The Reapers. His heart sank, and his pulse quickened. He had known this moment was coming. The nightmare was closing in. And the Council's response? He asked, though he already knew the answer. "They've ordered us to observe. They say we can't afford another conflict, not after the Dracther War." Kira's words were laced with frustration. "They want us to stand down." Dren clenched his jaw. "We can't just sit back while our people are slaughtered," he said firmly. "Prepare a team. We're going in." The Sentinel Vanguard's engines roared to life. The ship's frame shuddered as it altered course. They were heading straight for the outer colonies, the fringes of explored space where the Reapers had struck. There was no time to waste. The Reapers were no ordinary enemy. They were something else, something alien, beyond anything the galaxy had seen. They didn't just attack. They erased entire populations, wiped out settlements like they were nothing more than dust. And no one ever survived to tell the tale. In the war room, a holographic map of the affected colonies flickered into existence. The markers blinked, red blinking like wounds across the galaxy. Small, isolated worlds. The patterns of destruction were disturbingly clear. The Reapers weren't just hitting random targets. They were methodical. They were closing in. "The Reapers," Kira said, her voice barely a whisper, though she knew it to be true. "It has to be them." Dren's gaze hardened. The name itself brought a chill. The Reapers were a myth, a legend whispered in the darkest corners of the galaxy. They were more than just an enemy. They were a force of nature, terrifying and relentless. Some believed they were creatures of darkness. Others thought they were an ancient, long-dormant race, awakened from their slumber. The truth didn't matter. All that mattered was that they were real. And they were here. "We've faced worse," Dren muttered, though even to his own ears, it sounded more like a weak attempt at reassurance. In truth, they hadn't faced anything like this. But they didn't have a choice. "We fight." The Vanguard arrived at the outermost colony with speed. What they found was a world turned to ruin. The once thriving settlement was now a smoldering wasteland. The sky was choked with dark clouds, and the air was thick with the stench of burning debris. Buildings lay collapsed, twisted by fire and destruction. The land was scarred. Nothing lived here anymore. Dren's stomach tightened. The Reapers had been here, and they had left nothing but death in their wake. Dren led the away team, their suits glinting under the faint light of the system's dying sun. They moved quickly, methodical, as they advanced into the heart of the destruction. Their boots crunched over debris, and the silence pressed in on them, suffocating. The world around them had been consumed by death. But Dren wasn't looking at the wreckage. His focus was on what might still be hidden beneath. Was there anyone left? A survivor? Commander, Kira called, her voice cutting through the quiet. I'm picking up faint life signs. Someone's still alive. I think it's a child. Dren's heart skipped. A survivor. Impossible. No one should have lived through this. Lead the way, he ordered, his voice clipped, but there was a flicker of hope in it. They reached a building that was still standing, barely. The walls were cracked, but it was intact, the only refuge in this charred landscape. Inside, the light was dim, but there in the corner was a child. A girl, no older than 10, huddled against the wall. Her wide eyes stared back at them, filled with terror, her small body trembling. In her hands, she clutched a strange, glowing device. Her clothes were torn, and blood stained the fabric. She was alive, but just barely. Dren's heart twisted. It was a miracle she had survived, but there was no time to think about that now. He stepped forward, lowering his weapon to show he meant no harm. It's okay, he said, his voice soft. We're here to help. The girl didn't respond. She only clutched the device tighter, looking over Dren's shoulder. Her eyes flickered nervously, and then he saw it, the shape in the shadows. A Reaper. It was a nightmare come to life. Its form was like a dark cloud, constantly shifting, warping, as though it wasn't bound by the rules of space or time. A shadow, a distortion in the air itself. It moved toward them with horrifying speed. This was no ordinary enemy. Open fire, Dren ordered. His voice was sharp, and the team reacted instantly, unleashing a torrent of energy blasts. The shots flared, lighting up the room in flashes, but the Reaper absorbed them as if they were nothing more than raindrops. It didn't flinch. It didn't retreat. It only moved closer. Fall back, Dren shouted. They couldn't stop it. Not like this. The team scrambled, weapons at the ready, retreating as the creature followed. Kira yanked the girl into her arms, and the two of them ran, the sound of the Reaper's shifting form echoing behind them like the beating of a drum. They made it back to the Vanguard, but the fight wasn't over. The ship was under attack. The Reapers had followed them. Alarms blared across the deck. The crew scrambled to their stations, weapons primed, shields raised. Dren didn't panic. He gave orders precise and calm. They would hold the line. Prepare for evasive maneuvers, he commanded. We can't let them board. We'll hold them off until we find a way to defeat them. The battle that followed was chaos. The Reapers attacked from all angles, slipping through shields, phasing through the walls like shadows. The crew fought with everything they had, but the odds were impossible. Energy blasts ricocheted off their shifting bodies. The Vanguard's hull groaned under the strain. Systems flickered and failed. The ship's defenses held barely. Then Kira burst onto the bridge, breathless, the device still clutched in her hands. I've got it, she said. It's a signal disruptor. It distorts their form. If we activate it, we can destabilize them. Dren didn't hesitate. Activate it. The crew worked quickly, linking the device to the ship systems. They targeted the Reapers, and when the disruptor activated, the pulse shot through the ship. The Reapers screamed, their bodies collapsing into themselves, unraveling like mist in the wind. One by one, they disappeared, their forms dissipating into nothingness. The crew erupted in cheers. The battle was won. But Dren's mind was still racing. We've won this fight, he said, his voice heavy. But the war is far from over. As the Vanguard limped toward the core worlds for repairs, Dren reflected on what they'd learned. The Reapers were only the beginning. There was something much bigger coming, a greater threat, and they would face it whatever it took. The galaxy might tremble, but humanity would stand. United, strong, defiant. And the silence of the stars would no longer be their enemy.